So you can see I got 2 pounds of cracked grains in the grain bag here. I'm just going to dunk it in here. So you want to let this steep for about 25 minutes. Now's a good time to turn your heat off or on very low. You don't want the temperature to rise above 170 here. So I'm just going to let this sit on, actually I'm going to turn one of the burners off and let one of them go just to keep the temperature up. And I want to keep it around 150 to 160 degrees. So steep it a bit, up and down, and then let it drip out. So once the bag stopped dripping, I put it in this bowl, and then I poured a little bit of 170 degree water on top of it, just to give it a final rinse, make sure that all the color and flavor is extracted out of it. Now is about a good time to return your kettle up to full heat again, and you're going to bring this to a boil. The wort is about to start boiling. I just checked the temperature. It's about 205. So at this point I'm going to turn the heat way down, as low as it'll go. And now I'm going to add my dried malt extract. Now if I was trying to make a light beer like a light ale or a pilsner or something like that, I probably wouldn't add my extract this early, because if you're going to boil for 60 minutes, you're going to get some caramelization and you're going to make a darker beer. Just pour it in. It's a little bit messy, gets sticky really quickly, but it dissolves pretty quick. Okay, I stirred for about 5 minutes and it looks to be completely dissolved. And I'm going to return the heat to full. And I'm going to add my bittering hops now, which is 1 ounce of Tettnager. You just pour the pellets in. And once that starts boiling, it's going to get stirred up, so there's no need to stir it at this point. So now we're going to set our timer for 40 minutes, because that's going to be the next time we have to do something like add our flavor hops. Okay, so the 40-minute initial boil is over, and we're going to put an additional 1 ounce of Tettnager hops in there. And then we're going to set our timer for 20 minutes and continue the boil for 20 minutes. Okay, now that we have only 20 minutes left to our boil, now's a great time to actually mix up some sanitizer. I have a gallon diluted solution of iodophor in there. That's I'm basically just shaking that up continuously every once in a while, and it's coating the sides of the carboy. That way you don't have to fill it up to the very top and waste all that sanitizer. Also, during my initial 40-minute boil, I boiled about a cup of water and put it in a measuring cup and covered it with plastic wrap and put that in the refrigerator and brought that down to, it's actually about 90 degrees right now. So I want to let that cool to about 85, and then I want to rehydrate my dry yeast in it. Alright, my pre-boiled water is now down to about 86 degrees. So I'm just going to pull off the plastic cover for a second and sprinkle my dried yeast in there. Doesn't have to be perfect, you just want to coat the surface of the water here. And once you do that, just recover it. You don't want it to get any infections in there. And we're basically going to leave this for the last of the 20-minute boil, about 15-16 minutes from now, and then we're going to stir it up. Now, some kit instructions suggest that you don't have to rehydrate your dry yeast, that you can just sprinkle it directly into your cooled wort. And that is true, it would work, but everything that I've read said that yeast cells have a lot easier time pulling in plain water that has a low gravity versus trying to pull the moisture out of a high gravity wort. And I suppose, you know, you might make a decision if you're doing a low gravity ale or something like that, go ahead and just sprinkle the dry yeast into the wort. But I've been brewing mostly 50-point gravity and higher beers, so I definitely like to rehydrate the yeast, and so far it's been fine. Alright, our flavoring hops have been boiling here for 15 minutes, I should say 20 minutes, and our chiller has been sanitizing in the boiling wort for the last 15 minutes of that 20. And our timer just went off, so I'm going to add 1 ounce of Hallertau for aroma hops, and I'm just going to let that roll in the boil for about 3 minutes, and then we're going to flame out. Alright, our aroma hops have been in there for 2 to 3 minutes boiling, just to sanitize and have it well mixed, and then we're going to flame out. And I have my spoon sitting in here to sanitize it, because I'm going to want to whirlpool this. Basically get your column of wort spinning inside the pot so that it flows past the coils and mixes more readily. Otherwise you're just going to get a hot area in the middle of the column and cooled wort by the coils of the cooler of the chiller. So let's spin that. I'm just going to hang that on the edge. And now you want to cover it. And if you notice, there's a cutout in the lid for the chiller. That way no particles or stray yeast actually falls in as the temperature falls. So now I'm going to get the flow going. And I like to catch the initial hot water out of the output of the chiller into a Rubbermaid container. And I'll use this to clean my chiller after the fact. There's no reason to waste hot water. I like to keep my thermometer in a test tube of sanitizer, because once the wort is chilled, you don't want to be putting a dirty thermometer in there. So check the temperature. And I'm down to about 85 degrees. It took about 4 minutes running 60-degree tap water through the chiller. Okay, I just pumped 1.5 gallons of ice water through the coil, and it went from 90 to 70 in 2 minutes. So 70 is a good place to stop. Use a sanitized stirring utensil. You can see that the yeast is hydrating and coming to life. Just want to give it a quick stir, make sure everything's completely hydrated, and put into suspension. I put my funnel into the carboy with the internal strainer, but I also put a grain bag over the top of it to do some additional straining, and if it gets clogged I can just take that bag off and continue pouring. You can see the last bit that's in here is just sludge. You're not going to really get any usable wort out of that.